Coming up on Arirang News, President Yoon stresses during the last cabinet meeting of the year that the government will provide intensive support for the service sector so that recovery in exports can lead to consumer spending next year. South Korea renews educational material for soldiers, which explicitly states North Korea and its military as the main enemy. The Defense Ministry adds those in the South who follow the regime's ideology, system, and policies are internal threats. There's no signs of the war ending in Gaza, with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu urging troops not to stop. A close advisor to him is reportedly scheduled to meet with White House officials to discuss the next stages of the fight. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. We start with the last cabinet meeting of the year, where President Yoon Suk-yeol provided his comprehensive economic review of 2023 and laid out strategies for 2024. He promised intensive support for the service sector so that recovery in exports can lead to broader economic rebound next year. Our Shin Se-byuk leads us off.
President Yoon Suk-yeol said the economy took a turn upward in 2023, and that improvement in exports will drive the country's growth next year. This as President Yoon reflected on the year 2023 and discussed strategies for moving forward into 2024 during a cabinet meeting at the Sejong government complex on Tuesday.
정부는 수출 중심의 회복세가 민생과 직결되는 내수 회복으로 이어질 수 있도록 서비스 산업을 집중적으로 지원할 것입니다.
This initiative particularly focuses on the content industry, a field that is rapidly gaining traction among future generations. President Yoon also highlighted the strategic development of high-value sectors like finance and biohealth. In addition, he vowed to focus his efforts on invigorating local economies with a special emphasis on enhancing the tourism and food industries. Yoon's emphasis on nurturing domestic economies through export-led strategies came as South Korea is projected to post some $30 billion for this year's current account surplus. He thanked the people for making it possible.
파탄난 재정과 무너진 시장 경제를 복원하기 위해 노력해온 정부를 믿어주시고 협력해 주신 국민과 기업인들 덕분이라고 할 수 있습니다.
During the meeting, President Yoon also addressed his dedication to implementing 3 key reforms in the areas of national pension, labor, and education. He said these tasks must be pursued to the end to elevate the nation's growth potential. He also highlighted further reforms in the medical sector, including plans to raise the enrollment quota of medical schools to ease deepening regional disparities in medical services. President Yoon also pledged a swift development of strategies through intensive discussions, given its urgency in safeguarding public health. Regarding the government's fiscal plan for next year, recently passed in Parliament, he said it reflects the government's sound fiscal policy principle and called on the cabinet for a swift execution of the budget. Yoon also vowed to do his utmost to enhance the people's quality of life and reaffirmed his commitment to dismantling barriers between government bodies to enable stronger collaboration across the board. Shin Se-byuk, Arirang News.
Shifting gears, South Korea has published a renewed textbook for soldiers, stressing who they must fight and defeat. That is, North Korea. It also described forces in the South who are followers of the North Korean ideology and system as, quote, internal threats. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung reports.
South Korea has made clear that the North Korean regime and its military is South Korea's enemy in its renewed educational material for soldiers. The Defense Ministry on Tuesday published a new education document for mental combat power and stated that the military must recognize who the enemies are as North Korea continues to advance its nuclear and missile capabilities.
We have reorganized the content so that our soldiers can clearly recognize the enemy they must fight against amid a severe security situation.
On top of this, the ministry described forces inside South Korea who are followers of the regime's ideology, system, and policies as internal threats. The textbook notes that North Korea has been building underground parties in various parts of South Korean society since the 1960s. According to the materials, the internal forces deny South Korea's liberal democracy, follow North Korea uncritically, and remain silent on the regime's human rights abuses.
Throughout time, we have seen many historical examples and lessons that a country's crisis often starts from within, not from outside. So we should let this be a good lesson.
The textbook is renewed every 5 years, and the latest version is being distributed to soldiers until the end of this month for use starting next year. Compared to the previous Moon administration, which stressed reconciliation and cooperation with North Korea, the renewed edition under the current Yoon administration appears to have taken a much more hardline approach in response to the regime's evolving threats. Choi Min-jang, Arirang News.
And across the border, North Korea is scheduled to host a key policy direction meeting this week as it wraps up the year 2023. This amid international concerns over its weapons ambitions. Our Park Gun-woo has more on what message the regime could send towards Seoul and Washington.
North Korea is expected to convene a key party meeting during this week to review policies for this year and set policy goals for 2024. That was reported back on December 1st by North Korea's state media, hinting that a plenary session of the Central Committee of the ruling Workers' Party will be held at the end of the month. The regime has this session at the end of each year, with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's participation since 2019 to review that year's state policies and set goals for the upcoming year. According to some experts, it is expected that during the session, the North will reaffirm its tough stance against the US and South Korea while seeking to strengthen ties with China and Russia. A North Korea specialist said hostile messages to some countries are possibly expected from Kim.
I see no indications that he will strike a reconciliatory tone with either South Korea or the United States.
He added that if Kim chooses to speak about international relations, he may speak about its strong allies, including Russia and China, in order to emphasize the regime as strong friends and is not alone against South Korea in the US. But the expert also said there's a possibility that the North might focus on domestic issues rather than discussing international relations. Experts also think the North could be unveiling plans to strengthen its military capabilities, including the next spy satellite launch timeline, after it successfully launched a satellite this year.
So we might see a launch, for example, around the birth dates of Kim Jong-il in February or Kim Il-sung in April.
But the expert noted there are several factors, including technical, atmospheric, and other considerations that affect the exact launch dates. Park Gun-woo, Arirang News.
South Korea has set out a comprehensive plan to improve North Korean human rights issues. The Unification Ministry on Tuesday unveiled 8 projects under the plan aimed at unifying the two Koreas with guaranteed freedom and human rights. They include resolving issues related to separated families and defectors. For this, the ministry will expand conducting DNA tests on defectors and second and third generational descendants of families separated by the 1950 to 53 Korean War for more potential family reunions. Also, it plans to create content that informs the truth about the regime's human rights and will actively address the issue in the international community. Moving on. Wrapping up President Yoon's diplomacy in the global arena this year, our presidential correspondent Oh Soo-young highlights major achievements made by the South Korean leader in keywords.
South Korea's trilateral cooperation with the United States and Japan was at the core of President Yoon Suk-yeol's summit diplomacy in 2023. First, South Korea's military-focused alliance with the US, based on the Mutual Defense Treaty signed 70 years ago, became a global comprehensive strategic alliance, broadening their scope of cooperation to areas like tech, climate, energy, and more. This came as Presidents Yoon and Joe Biden announced the Washington Declaration in April, amid North Korea's growing nuclear threat, setting out new measures to boost confidence in America's extended deterrence policy. This created the creation of the Nuclear Consultative Group, under which the two sides will discuss and develop joint nuclear response guidelines to a potential North Korean nuclear strike. The document was also a major step towards the Camp David trilateral agreements with Japan in mid-August. After the rapprochement between Seoul and Tokyo, the three leaders inked documents on their shared commitment and course of action for Indo-Pacific security and prosperity, joint responses to North Korea's security threat through missile information sharing and combined military drills, and an agreement to consult each other on regional security challenges. With over a dozen diplomatic trips this year, the South Korean leader also expanded Seoul's diplomatic horizons, given the continued geopolitical risks to global security and economies that challenge the post-war world order of globalization, free trade and multilateral institutions. Thus, Yoon has been pushing for value-based multilateral cooperation for a rules-based world order to stabilize trade and regional security and tackle climate, digital and global development challenges. He pledged Seoul's contributive diplomacy, even visiting Ukraine to show South Korea's value-based solidarity and leading global discussions on establishing new digital norms on areas like artificial intelligence. But particularly with a focus on economic security, Yoon called himself the salesman of Korea, aiming to procure critical supply chains and energy sources and strike up partnerships on developing new advanced technologies for South Korea's export-dependent economy. Major deals include the Downing Street Accords with the UK on deepening security and economic ties, including jointly developing quantum technology that could neutralize North Korean missiles. A semiconductor alliance was forged with the Netherlands to work on cutting-edge R&D in the technology, which is South Korea's #1 export item. Yoon also strengthened ties with Southeast Asian countries, sealing deals on mineral cooperation and closer trade with Vietnam and Indonesia. State visits to the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia and Qatar, followed by a bilateral free trade agreement with Abu Dhabi, marked a new timely chapter for South Korea's Middle East diplomacy, as the post-oil era brings both crises and opportunities to Arab states as crude suppliers and South Korea as a major importer. Next year, economic security will likely continue topping the diplomatic agenda as Seoul looks to develop new export industries in areas like bio, defense, smart agriculture and nuclear plants. 오수영, Arirang News.
In the Middle East, there's no signs of the war ending in Gaza, with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu urging troops not to stop. A close advisor to him is reportedly scheduled to meet with White House officials to discuss the next stages of the fight. Our Moon Hae-ryun has more.
A member of Israel's war cabinet and a close confidant of its prime minister is reportedly due to meet with White House officials on Tuesday to discuss the next stages of the conflict in Gaza. According to CNN on Monday, Ron Dermer, who previously served as an ambassador to the United States, will be meeting several senior Biden administration officials, such as National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and Secretary of State Antony Blinken. This comes following Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu declaring that the war is not close to ending on Monday, despite the White House putting pressure on Israel to lower the intensity of its operations in the enclave and civilian casualties. Netanyahu's statement was released after he visited Gaza for the second time since he declared war on Hamas, with Israel upping its attacks over the holidays. Israeli forces killed more than 100 people at the Markazi refugee camp, with Palestinian authorities saying some 250 Palestinians have been killed over the past 24 hours. Christmas Eve in Gaza was also marred by heavy bombardments from the Israeli military in its continued fight against Hamas, leading to the leveling of buildings and injuries to over 500 people. As of Monday afternoon, the death toll in the Strip has mounted to 20,700. As the war rages on, various media sources have reported a proposal by Egypt to end the conflict, a three-phase plan to secure the release of hostages. Despite Israel's war cabinet convening on Monday, no official statements have been given so far regarding this proposal or the release of hostages being held in Gaza. According to the Wall Street Journal on Monday, Netanyahu has said that there are 3 prerequisites for peace: the elimination of Hamas, the demilitarization of Gaza, and the Palestinian society being de-radicalized. Meanwhile, U.S. forces are being attacked by Iran-backed militants in Iraq and Syria due to U.S. support for Israel in its conflict with Hamas. The U.S. military has faced over 100 attacks in Iraq and Syria since the start of the Israel-Hamas war in October. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
Moving on, the South Korean government says it'll not be changing its import ban on Japanese seafood after Tokyo announced plans to increase exports of scallops to the country. The first Vice Minister for Government Policy and Coordination, Park Gu-yeon, said on Tuesday this is merely Japan's plan and added the country will continue to conduct radiation testing on imported seafood, including scallops. His remarks come after Kyodo News earlier reported that Japan is seeking to turn South Korea and the European Union into new export markets for scallops amid China's ongoing import ban on Japanese seafood products. South Korea currently bans seafood products originating from 8 prefectures near Fukushima. And also here on the local front, artificial intelligence is revolutionizing the surveillance camera to the next level. Its capabilities have been diversified from crowd management to satisfying customers in retail. Our business correspondent Shin Ha-young reports.
안전사고가 우려되오니 안전거리를 유지하여 주시길 바랍니다.
Suwon City in Gyeonggi-do Province has been putting efforts into crowd management using AI surveillance cameras after the deadly Itaewon crowd crush last year. When AI-powered surveillance cameras detect crowd numbers surpassing a certain level per unit area, they automatically send notifications to this control room.
AI cameras directly analyze on-site video instead of using a separate analysis system, making the process faster and cost-effective. During the recent Halloween, they detected a dense crowd on the street.
As technology advances, the role of surveillance cameras is expanding beyond simply recording. An AI surveillance camera from Hanwha Vision, South Korea's leading global vision solution company, uses a bat shot feature to detect various attributes such as age groups, gender, color of clothing, and even whether a person is wearing glasses. The collected data is used to extract information on specific situations, saving time, in this case, identifying a man in a red top. Its AI camera provides an immediate response to car accidents and monitors abnormal traffic flow. An AI thermal camera issues an alert when it detects abnormal temperatures in designated objects. By utilizing AI in cutting-edge devices, including a panoramic camera that uses a stitching technique for a wider view, it offers a comprehensive solution for various industries.
AI surveillance cameras can spot jaywalkers and give early warning to prevent accidents. They also analyze customer interests and peak hours in retail stores and cafes, offering useful business insights to store owners. To enhance security, all stored data is encrypted from the design stage and videos are stored separately in a so-called trust zone to resist hacking attempts.
Security is ensured not only during data processing, but also in certain situations where people are recognized only as shapes with objects visible behind them. The global video surveillance market is on a path of substantial expansion, with an expected valuation of over $62 billion in 2027, according to the global market research firm Statista. Aligned with advancements in AI for surveillance cameras, South Korea plans to replace all government-operated surveillance cameras with AI-equipped ones by 2027 to automatically monitor or detect emergencies around the clock. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
Now heading over to Jeju Island. It's been a month since foreign workers have come to the island for a public seasonal working program. And both farms and the workers report high satisfaction. Our Chung Eun-ju has more.
A Vietnamese female worker harvests tangerines, quickly filling up the baskets. Once the baskets are filled, a male worker uses a cart to move them. The harvest of a 6,600 square meter tangerine field has been completed with the deployment of 4 foreign workers per day.
Without these Vietnamese workers, the labour issue is so severe that we would have to give up farming. With previous foreign workers, they'd all gravitate towards the side offering more money, and there was a lot of hardship in working. But this year, we've managed our farming easily.
Introduced in November for the first time in the region, employees of the PFSW program are not directly employed by the farms. Instead, the National Agricultural Cooperative Federation, or Nonghyop, contracts the labor and assigns them to farms that apply for the program. The cooperative is responsible for overall operations, including providing shared accommodation for the workers and managing staff. After a month of operation, farms have reduced labor costs by up to 40,000 Korean won, or roughly $30 per person a day, alleviating a financial burden. Comparatively, the workers receive about 5 times more salary than in Vietnam and have shown high satisfaction as the program includes various support systems for adaptation, including activities related to hobbies and counseling. However, constructing exclusive accommodation for workers and securing management costs are necessary to expand the program.
Farms are requesting more labor, but it's difficult for us to accommodate and manage more than 50 workers ourselves. If the administration handles this, we could request even beyond 50 workers, up to 100.
The PFSW program is expanding nationwide from 23 locations this year to 70 next year. 3 locations in Jeju Island have applied. As the program has proven effective in coping with rural labor shortages, administrative and financial support is needed for its continuation. 정은주, Arirang News.
Former Justice Minister Han Dong-hoon was sworn in as the interim leader of the ruling People Power Party on Tuesday. Speaking at the inauguration ceremony at the party's headquarters in Yeouido, Han vowed to guide the ruling party to victory in the upcoming April general election while devoting himself to the people. The ex-justice chief was nominated to be the party chairman following the resignation of former Representative Kim Gi-hyun this month due to a clash with the party's Innovation Committee. The Cultural Heritage Administration designated Buan Naesosa Temple's bronze bell, the largest surviving bronze bell from the late Goryeo dynasty, as a national treasure on Tuesday. The agency explained its significance as it allows the study of the precise history and production techniques of a Korean Buddhist temple bell. The bell's status was raised to national treasure after 60 years since it was first designated as a treasure in 1963. Meanwhile, 5 other relics, including 2 Silla gold waist belts excavated from different tombs in Gyeongju, were designated as treasures on the same day.
It seems like the Christmas holidays has taken the Arctic cold wave away. In fact, the temperatures in Seoul this morning was about 3 degrees higher than usual. However, fine dust became a problem as the cold receded. The smoke from overseas flowed in from the afternoon, and the air quality became murky. From tomorrow, the concentration of ultrafine dust will be thicker nationwide. This fine dust is not expected to be easily resolved for the time being. Make sure to wear ultrafine dust masks. In addition, dry weather advisories are issued for the East Coast as east areas are currently under dry spells. Also, the strong wind is blowing more than 50 meters per second. It is crucial to take extra precautions against wildfires. Tomorrow, Seoul will start off at -3 degrees. Maximum temperatures in Seoul and Chuncheon will reach 6 degrees, Busan 12 degrees Celsius. The temperatures for this week will be similar to today's. However, there is rain or snow forecast all over the country again on the weekend. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Well, that is all for this newscast. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at 10 p.m. with the AI headline news. Hope everyone has a great start of the week.